Oh boy, oh boy. I love, I love when my PS5 controller, PS4 controller takes over all the input. Sorry about that. This will be the first time I'm actually live, on my time. Kind of. I'm late by 9 minutes, but you know what? I take a massive shit. It's just how it goes. Okay. This is the first time, at least till 2024, that I'm alive on the time. Again, sorry there's no streams yesterday or the day before. I know some people were looking forward to them. I got busy. Morning poops, brother. Exactly, brother. Morning poops. I'll get into why I was busy, but yeah, the morning poops was like really a lot of it. So for the past 2 days, I've been eating a lot of let's say very diarrhea-inducing food. Just this morning, I found out the milk that I've been drinking for my coffee was expired on the 11th. It's the 17th. Listen, the milk doesn't smell bad, nor is it cheesy. But I was like, why do I keep taking a shit so often? So yeah, I've been taking massive shits because of the milk. And you know, today's the last day I'm going to drink the milk because I drank it all. Who knew? Who knew that drinking milk that's long past expiry would possibly hurt you? Chunky milk. It wasn't chunky. It smelled perfectly fine. It smells like delicious. It smells like it's straight from the cow's teeth, right? From its from its beautiful plump teeth. But yeah, today is going to be an interesting stream, okay? One, there's a lot of interesting things to talk about that have happened in the, I guess, like gaming space. Two, I thought that we'd do a fun segment because A, it's cathartic for me, but also B, I thought it'd be fun to just talk about this stuff because you can't find information about this stuff anywhere. There's like literally no information. I had to learn this stuff on my own, on the go. Welcome, brothers. Another brother has joined the stream. Hello, hello. So I thought this would be a fun segment to, I guess, talk shop about what I do for work and actually show you guys an example of some of the stuff that I do for work. But from a very abstract, generalized perspective, because I can't show you details because I'm under NDA for a lot of this stuff. But I defined the contract this time, so I actually have a lot more freedom. But even then, I just don't want to dox like random people, so you know what I mean? It's going to be very generalized. But it's going to be an interesting look, I think. At least from my perspective, it was very interesting to work on from the food service hospitality side of things, and then just like kind of merging technology with that, as well as dealing with the logistics side of things and helping them make certain decisions. It's a very it's a topic that I like. It's a very nerdy topic. We won't stay on it for too long because we have a very important mission today, as well as this week, as well as the rest of this month. Okay, I recently fixed up the spreadsheet. Now let me show you the spreadsheet. Game bar? No, I don't want game bar. Xbox game bar. Xbox Live. What's that? Something NVIDIA now? GeForce now. I don't want this shit. Wait. But there's a giant spreadsheet that I showed last time. It has a bunch of games on here. It's all just names of games, so as far as I know, it can't be banned. But just fair warning, there's a lot of hentai games on here. I do want to play them at some point because I think it'd be funny to play a hentai game. Obviously not on Twitch, right? Because I would be insta-banned. But I think it would be funny to like play it on like a non-Twitch platform that I can't say because I'd be insta-banned for even mentioning it. There's another place where we could do it, but not here, okay? Okay, bring this bad boy over here. But recently, I have successfully... Oh god, it's taking over! It's fighting back! It's holding us in! Recently, I have successfully gone through and trimmed out this list, okay? And also added all the stuff that I've been meaning to add to this list a long time ago, okay? There's a lot of things here. I'm gonna hide the notes just because, like, I forget what I wrote. And I'm pretty sure I wrote some very raunchy things about, like, you know, what kind of hentai game it is. Maybe also hide the genre because it's probably very raunchy too. I'm pretty sure I said, like, big titties somewhere, so... But there's a lot of games, okay? There are actually, let me show you the number of rows, okay? I'm gonna keep scrolling. This is the last item, this one, okay? Look at the number of games that I want to get to at some point, okay? Many of these games I've heard are amazing, okay? All of them, actually. 282! You know what's crazy? There's one game on this list that isn't here that we need to get to because it's going to be the one release that I've been looking forward to for a long time. And we still need to finish the original plus the DLC for it. It's Final Fantasy VII Remake. Okay? I wanted to play the original Final Fantasy VII before I finish the Final Fantasy VII Remake. The problem is that There's no way I'm gonna be able to. You cannot beat. You just can't beat a JRPG in a month. It is a full-time job to beat a JRPG. Okay, Baldur's Gate 3 is shorter than a typical JRPG, and we're still in Act 2. We just got to Act 2, and my game keeps crashing, and I don't know why. So there's no way we're gonna make it through multiple JRPGs. Okay, but Final Fantasy VII Remake Part 2. Final Fantasy VII 2 Remake 2 Part 2 Ascension Advent Children Rising Phoenix something Attack of the Ghost Angels Sephiroth is coming out in 2 months. Next month. Yeah, it's coming out in like 2 months. So it's very fast, okay? We don't have a lot of time to finish Final Fantasy VII Remake. I don't know how long that game is. But I do know it is not like, the full story at least. So there is some leeway. We do have some ways to make it faster, okay? But as you can see, there's a lot of different games I want to like try out a long time ago. A lot of these we're gonna do in like multiple sort of like games a day, like days, like a Sunday or like a Saturday. Just a weird day we can just play weird games, right? Like Azaltham, like a Thief, the Black Parade. Sorry, you can't see anything because it's massive. Hagrid, a massive mate. So like you have like Thief, the Black Parade, a very old school mod that all of a sudden got like the full release. Entropy Zero has now finished. It's either finished or it's like the latest episode. There's some other weird games that I found, like a Togi Katsugeki. I'm not even going to bother. Or a Ribbit King, or Sucker for Love, A Date to Die For. Okay, I'm still waiting for that, and that's actually coming out in February too. There's a lot of games that we need to like do. Okay, there's a lot of games, and I don't know what to do. The problem is that all of these games are actually genuinely fascinating, right? There's a lot of games that I really want to try for a long time, and they're all genuinely cool. But as you know, we never finish games on the channel, and I want to finish the games that we started because they're all very interesting. I still haven't even finished Death Stranding 1, and it's taken so long that Kojima he's making a new game. We've taken so long to finish Death Stranding 1 that he's making a new game that isn't Death Stranding 3. He's already basically done Death Stranding 2. He's on to his new game, OD. It's like, what's going on? You know what I mean? So we need to finish something. All right. So that's the major news. Okay, we're gonna be finishing a game this week, Astra Libra. Okay, that is the goal for this week's streams. We'll be interspersing it with like fun random things as I find them, because I don't think I can stay on one thing for too long. I think at some point I'm going to get bored, right? But it is at least going to be mostly us finishing a game, because even Astra Libra, a game that released multiple years ago, all of a sudden has a random DLC announcement that continues the story. So I'm like, what do we do? So there's a lot to do, okay? But first, we need to start with the topic at the hand. Interesting news from around the gaming world, okay? There's been a lot of interesting things around the gaming world. I don't really have the links on the hand, but I've read most of them, okay? The two major ones I wanted to talk about were two of the ones that I found super, super weird, okay? These are two that they deal with concepts that I've always found to be very strange. For any kind of business, right? And I always wonder why businesses do this, and who convinces the person at the very top that this is worth doing, right? The first one is Capcom, okay? Now, Capcom has been on a roll. I really liked Resident Evil 4 remake. I thought their Resident Evil Village, was it Village? Was that the one where he was like taken into the home and into that spooky home? Well, that one had like a VR too, but that game was amazing, right? They're reimagining of their classic series, right? Street Fighter is okay. I mean, it's Street Fighter, and you have their other series. What else do they make? What else does Capcom make? Capcom games. What other game series do they make? Oh, Monster Hunter is still going strong. Yeah, I forgot about that. Devil May Cry. Rest in peace. That we will never see another sequel to that game ever again. I genuinely don't think we're gonna see a Devil May Cry 6. Or is it 7 now? I don't know. If only because the story is done, right? Like, what spoilers? Spoilers. Latest Devil May Cry game, Dante and Virgil are fighting off the demons in hell. Unless they make the next game a survivors, a like vampire survivors like, where it's just Dante and like Virgil, but you have to actually do the combos to get upgrades and like shit. Actually, that might kind of slap. That actually might be kind of good. Maybe Capcom, do you want me to consult with you? I'm actually available for consultations. If you want, exactly, a roguelike DMC, that's exactly, right? Because they're stuck in hell. They're stuck in hell holding out the forces of hell away from the human world, and then you can, you know what I mean? That'd be kind of cool. You know what I mean? It'd be kind of cool. I don't know. Let me cook. Well, they made Great Ace Attorney. Wait, really? They made Ace Attorney. What? I don't know. They made Ace. What? They published this? That's weird. They published Okami? No wonder it's dead. But yeah, they've been doing a lot of good things in their games, okay? And also Dragon's Dogma 2. Oh yeah, the games list. Dragon's Dogma 2. When's that coming out? We have to play Dragon's Dogma 1. Dragon's Dogma 2. Dogma these nuts. It's March 22. Yeah, it's okay. It's gonna take a while. Even Dragon's Dogma 2. They're absolutely cooking, right? So what you do when you cook, you burn the restaurant down. You burn the restaurant down. They recently announced they're gonna re-update all of their old games with a DRM. I forget if it's called Denuvo or if it was the other one, but it's really weird, right? Because they people speculate the impetus is that because they were pissed. There was a funny incident involving a Street Fighter V tournament, where one of the announcers of that tournament, this is not an official tournament, right? It's run kind of like, you know, how Evo used to be. It was just like it's just like a, you know, fan. It's just like a fan tournament, right? One of the announcers had a nude mod for Chun-Li, and she was just nude on screen doing combos, and then everyone was like, oh. Apparently there was like at some point some press talk where Capcom did like mention on like some like press conference where they were like, yeah, that moment actually we really hated that. So in an effort to stop people from modding their single player games and also modding their multiplayer games, but for single player purposes, client side, they introduced this DRM, even to games that are like way old that have been released already. So all their old titles are being updated with this DRM. It's very odd because as a sailor of the high seas, right? Nothing's really changed for you, right? You've already got your sailing on the high seas copy of your game that allows you to mod the heck out of it, that has no connection to any DRM, and you can do whatever you want. You've already gotten it for like free. And in fact, those links won't ever go down too, because DMCA's, I mean, you can't DMCA a company that doesn't actually need to respond to it. It's overseas, right? It's a whole legal thing. This is why different sites get into different issues. And so what ends up happening is that normal customers who buy their games, like me, we get shafted. Our games, I can never mod these games ever again. And there's also some speculation that they do this because like modding in costumes gets rid of all of their monetary source of funds, right? And for a game like Monster Hunter World or Street Fighter V, it makes sense to have an anti-cheat of some kind or a DRM of some kind. Because do you really want to play with a pirated copy that's going to be, running cheat engine or like something? Probably not, right? But that's a very, far stretch from a single-player Resident Evil 5, 6, 7, where there's nothing going on. And you can just run your own costumes for any reason that you want, right? Like, I don't know why they would need to put DRM on Resident Evil Revelations, when that's a whole different timeline now and nobody even cares about Revelations. Except the raid mode, which was absolutely the most fun mode I've ever played in terms of like an online mode in like a long time. That was absolutely mindless. For context, Resident Evil did have it had a Diablo-like mode that was called raid mode. It was really fun. You just played Resident Evil, but like with Diablo stats. It was actually pretty cool. But now you're kind of like hamstringed. You can't actually play the games that you want to. You can't actually play them in the way that you want to. And there's a guarantee that all the mods are going to fail. And people have noted that a lot of this DRM stuff, for one of the games, they had to roll it back. I think it was for Monster Hunter World, because it caused such major performance issues that the game basically just didn't work for many people. And it was actually very surprising to see. But in general, all of their games now run slower. And these are not very easy games to run. Resident Evil 4 Remake makes my GPU sound like a jet engine, okay? I have a 2080 Ti. This is not a baby card. I know it has a 2 instead of a 3 or a 4, but listen, the 4090 is like a grandkid, right? He doesn't know what he's doing yet. The 2080 Ti is granddad. He came back from the war. He's a grizzled veteran. He knows what he's doing, right? And even he struggles in Resident Evil 4 Remake. He struggles in that game. At most, there's maybe 10 enemies on screen. There's not that many meshes, but it's so high quality that it shits the bed. And it's a very high quality card. And so to get even lower performance is saddening to me because I bought the game, because I thought they were going on the right track, and now all of a sudden it's way worse. And now I can't replay the game with having, Leon with a tattoo on his tailbone in like a midriff cutoff shirt. Is it a cutoff shirt? I forgot the term for the shirt. It's a shirt where it like shows his. I also can't play him like completely naked with like a fat ass and his like leather ass chaps, right? It's impossible now. All the mods are gone. And so it's fascinating to me when companies do this stuff because it's like, why would you do that to your user base that was already like they've already bought into what you have? And it's funny to me because all you have to do is do nothing. You do nothing and you guarantee sales just consistently flow because through word of mouth, people will know that your shit's good, right? Like your shit doesn't stink, right? Like it's like people are going to like buy it. When you go back and you make these decisions retroactively, you only hurt your paying customers. And it's always fascinating to see this in any industry, but games especially, because it's very visible in games, right? It has a very visible effect because we can measure in games very easily the difference between now and like then. But this happens in many other industries too, right? A lot of things that we have today tend to be like, the after effects of the enshittification of the original product, right? I can't even think of any off the top of my head. I just know that there's a lot in my life that I've had to like drop because at one point it was really good, and then later on when I had to buy it again because my old one broke and I really liked it, I buy it again and it's like it's not even the same thing. It's like completely different. It's like worse, right? If you just update it, if you get like a software update, it's like way worse all of a sudden, right? I'll never understand why. You know what I mean? It feels so strange to me because doing a choice like this is not cheap. If you think about it from a software perspective, right? And software has the lowest cost of anything, okay? In general, software costs are very, very low compared to any other cost of any other product because it doesn't deal with material goods that are bound by the laws of science. The only law of science in programming is that you must have electricity and you must have somebody who can make the boards for you, who is smarter than you, okay? Once you have those two things, Einstein and electricity, so Einstein and Tesla, not the car company, the dude who did like Nikola Tesla, you know what I mean? Like those two people, you can do anything, right? For very, very cheap. Even in that case, it's still a very huge expense to go back to all of your games, recompile them with a DRM thing, make sure they still work on all the platforms that they originally worked on, and make sure that there's no regressions like what happened to one of their games that they broke. And then they had to undo that work, and now they have to dedicate engineering time to a game that was released, done, and dead, basically. They don't have to maintain it or anything. But now they have to, because otherwise they have a broken product, and they can be sued. And so it's like, what is going on? Why, I want to know who convinces the person at the top to do these things. Always. I always wonder. How does somebody at the top get convinced on this? Because you ask any technical person, right? As a technical person, it's very hard to convince them, I think, on something that they can very easily see through the bullshit, right? Like, I don't think there's a single engineer in the entire world who thinks that they can make a DRM that can actually prevent people from doing things that they don't want to be done to their product. It's literally impossible, right? Even Denuvo, which people said was uncrackable, was still cracked at some point by, hacking groups. I'm not going to say which, but, they're out there. A lot of Denuvo games have been cracked open fully. And so it's like, the people who make the DRM, they're doing it because they want the paycheck, right? Obviously. And then the people who implement it, it's because they're told by someone, and so and then they also want to make a paycheck, right? But these decisions come from somewhere, right? And they come from the very, very top. Because at some point in that chain, somebody at the very top had to say, okay, everyone below me do this, or you're fired. So it's the person who made Denuvo, or all these DRM systems, and the person at Capcom who said, yes, this is a good idea, didn't consult with anyone, and just said, let's just do it. And I don't know why this always happens, and I really want to get into that mindset. I want to see how easy it is to sell them something. Because I feel like that's like selling snake oil, right? To me, it's like selling snake oil. Maybe, there's a bit of an oversimplification, right? Because obviously you don't want to have your game fully piratable. I'm reminded of some horror stories of like some indie game developers that have had most of the games be completely pirated out the wazoo. But even then, would it have really stopped people? Not really. It would have maybe delayed it by like a week or two. But even then, we see major releases get, cracked in like a single, literally the same day, or even sometimes before release because they get a leaked copy of it. And like, it always happens. You know what I mean? Like, Guys, Zelda Tears of the Kingdom was fully, it was playable a week before it released on PC at 60 FPS with high resolution HD graphics and with no DRM. A week before it officially released. You can't stop them. You can't stop this. But every time they try to, right? They make the experience worse for normal customers. I want to sell a CEO snake oil, right? Another company that's been doing bad decisions for end users, right? Gamers. I hate that term, but sure, whatever. It's Ubisoft. Now, this is weird because, again, I just praised them, I think 3 days ago, on Prince of Persia: The Lost Crown. When I played the demo and I was like, this actually might be one of the best Metroidvanias, you know what I mean? Like not like the best, but like one of the ones that's like up there that I really enjoyed playing because the systems that are in play and the amount of depth of complexity seems to be very high, right? At least from the demo alone, right? And I like a lot of Metroidvanias, right? I've played Bloodstained. I've played all the Castlevania games. I played, all the Metroid games now. At least the 2D side-scrolling ones, like Metroid, all the way from Fusion to like Dread and everything before, in between. Obviously, not the first one. I tried the first one. I beat it, but it's like I didn't like it because it's so old, right? But obviously, I think there's a lot of value in this genre, right? And I really liked what they were doing with Prince of Persia: The Lost Crown. The problem is that it's run by Ubisoft, and I said this on that day, and I was like, maybe Ubisoft has like changed because they at least give their dev teams a lot of like leeway. But then the business side of Ubisoft always rears their head and says, hey, all that good news and good press we've been having? Okay, well, I'm about to shit on all of it so that our dev teams stay on their toes and they realize that they can lose their jobs at any moment. They said, consumers must expect that they will never own their games ever again. Obviously, that's a very clickbaity title, right? And obviously, if you read more into it, they are talking about some interesting points in the sense of like this like digital license, like the way to have a digital game does change the idea of ownership, and software ownership in general is a very difficult concept to like maneuver around and sort of like manage, right? But even then, when you say it like that, how else could it be taken, right? And even if that's true, that's very complicated. Nobody wants to be told that they don't own something, right? Yeah, obviously we all kind of know, and we're all kind of like aware in the back of our heads that no game we own on Steam, for instance, is like ours. But we at least hope that there's some way to like wrest control if Steam ever dies, right? And be able to have and keep all the copies of things that we've bought. Ubisoft taking a hard stance of like you own nothing very publicly was a very interestingly bad PR move that I'm very surprised. Who keeps authorizing these people to say these things? I don't understand. Who in their PR department allows these business people to say these things? I don't actually ever understand. And it's fascinating to me because again, the entire it feels like a lot of like places took the message as it kind of like sounded like, and in the way that I think most people would have imagined it would end up being, right? In the sense of like you literally don't own anything and like you have to be used to it because that's the way that we want to go, because that's and by we I mean Ubisoft and like other major companies and like publishers, because it allows them to take control over, do you get to play this or like not. I'm glad that people took it that way, and I'm glad that people had such a visceral anti-reaction, a rejection to that idea. Because, again, it's kind of a crazy concept to me, because you're not stopping the bleed, right? You're not stopping people who sail the high seas. They have your game. Even if you take back the license of everyone who's bought your game, and you keep all their money and you make it so that you can't be sued, the people who stole your game have still stolen your game. There's nothing stopping that. No system can stop that. And so you really have to sort of wonder, like, who keeps selling these CEOs snake oil? And who keeps approving these PR messages? Like, who on the PR team says, okay, so you want to tell people that, very publicly, that they own nothing? Yes, I want to go out there and tell all the plebeians that they own nothing on our game store, Ubisoft Connect. Okay, just give me, just give us 1 day, I'm gonna hand in my resignation, and then you say it, all right? Because that's what's gonna happen, okay? I think that share prices tanked was like what like happened after, which is kind of funny to me because it's like, what'd you expect? But this always happens. Again, another example of a business that just seems to not understand how the user base is going to be like, or how any user base is going to be like. Because no matter what product you sell, again, this is a very common problem in like any industry. It's why you see a lot of different things moving towards subscription models. Every industry seems to have this idea that you can control your end user client, that you can control your consumer, but that's never the case. The moment that a better alternative comes along, you're screwed, right? People are going to be leaving in droves because why would they stay with you when you just clearly shit on them, right? And this happens in every industry, but again, in gaming, it's a very sort of like, it has a very pronounced effect because of how visible it is, how easy it is to measure, and how, viscerally wrong it feels. You know what I mean? Not as bad as, like, say, having a medical device. It's not as bad as a medical device that's on a subscription that runs out right when you need it, okay? And that's actually, like, real. Like, there are medical devices that run on subscriptions that can run out when you need it, okay? It's not as bad as that, okay? But it is way worse than your, I don't know, what's like a thing around me? It's way worse than your food scale running out of its subscription, and so you can't weigh the stuff on it anymore. It's way worse, right? It's like, it sits somewhere in that nebulous middle where it's like, it's just shit all around, but it's not life-threatening, but it's still shit enough to like make you feel sad, right? And it's like, it's weird how people who have products that are in that space that can make people feel that way think that they can get away with it very quietly, because like it's an entertainment product that people want to sort of play at that moment, and you never know that you have a problem until you get to the moment of when you want to play it. And so that moment of anticipation and like joy is instantly wrested away and like replaced by this feeling of like, I don't want to say pain and suffering because that's like very exaggerated, but it is a sense of like, sadness of like, oh man, like, and it feels worse than sadness because it's so sudden, right? It's such a sudden shift from like anticipation and like happiness into like, rejection, right? Dejection. I don't know which one. I don't really know which one would like fit more. I don't know. And so it's fascinating to me that somebody approves these messages and allows them to say it, and also why people still think that this is something that they should be doing, right? I looked at stores like GOG that seem to be very, very healthy, and they still are able to make some amount of money selling games with no DRM. And it seems to be a model that works out very, very well. And a lot of games sell without any DRM. And a lot of games allow you to just own the game forever. And, they won't revoke your license. But you have to keep a copy of your own files. That's totally fine, right? That's a very reasonable system. Otherwise, it just feels so anti-consumer for the sake of being anti-consumer. And it feels like, again, these companies, and as soon as a better alternative comes along, they're all going to like die instantly. And, we see that happen time and time again with like real life products. And I'm surprised that it hasn't happened to games yet. But it seems to be happening slowly to games now, considering that most of the industry is going through major layoffs. So I've talked about the layoffs before at Unity, with the entire Weta digital arm being cut off, and like a whole bunch of other things. But we're starting to get to this point where it's like we're seeing the clamping down of free money moving around, and I'm curious to see how many more bad decisions are going to come out in the coming months, right? This is just a start of a series of bad decisions by companies with people who should not be talking in like public, right? Is this just a start of a series? I fully expect it to get worse and worse over time. Now, you know who doesn't run a bad business? Me. Yeah, that's a great segue, all right? Now, I don't run a bad business. I run a damn good business. I run a business that is kind of weird. It's not really a business, but I just kind of consult for people who like just happen to have me on like contact. So it's like, close friends or family friends or personal friends or whoever. If they need some technical decision or they need some decision helping made or some insight and some advice in like a domain that I've already worked in that I know somewhat about, then it's great, right? And I thought this would be a fun activity to go through exactly what I do on a day-to-day basis, because I've been gone for a while, okay? I've been playing with her, my dog. I've been playing with my wife. Primarily my dog, though, because my dog is she's an attention seeker, okay? She jumps on my chest. She constantly licks my like face. She never wants to not be like held. She's very cute, okay? And so she gets in the way of me and my wife. But we love her very dearly. She's a baby. Also, we found out she gets car sick, which is very funny. What was I saying? Oh yeah, but in general, the people that I work for are people that I know, and so it's very sort of like, you know, easy for me to talk about these things. Usually when you do a contract, it's hard to talk about these like concepts because it's very, you know, you're usually under like a heavy NDA and stuff. But when I do this stuff for personal people, I'm the one who defines what happens basically, and I define how much it costs, and I even define what they need to do based on their requirements. So I technically define the NDA. I'm not gonna dox them, obviously. That'd be shitty. But I will be able to talk about it in very general terms, but with a lot of specific examples that are, you know, it's gonna be interesting to take a look at, right? And again, I thought this would be fun because I've been gone for so long, and you know, it's just a topic that's very interesting to me, and I haven't been able to find anything online about this ever. Like, I never find information about this stuff online to where I'm able to, you know, use someone else's experience to my benefit. There's never a case like this. Even on Reddit, you'll search a question like how does XYZ work, and the first reply, because Reddit is usually a great source for unbiased user opinions, the first reply says, are you sure you're ready to run a business? Well, I don't know, you motherfucker, that's why I'm asking, so give me the fucking answer. So yeah, when we talk about a segment of business that I like to call hospitality, because it literally is, but specifically it's about, you know, integrating technology into like food services, right? This is a very interesting domain of work because there's a lot of different things about this domain of work that make technology very difficult to integrate into, right? When you think of a food service restaurant, there's multiple types. In general, there's usually 3 archetypes, right? You have your counter service stuff, aka your franchises like McDonald's, right? That's a very classic example. I'm pretty sure there's a McDonald's everywhere in the world now, so everyone should know that, I think. I mean, if not, they've basically taken over the zeitgeist of like what is a fast food restaurant, a franchise, and a counter service place, right? You have your fine dining places, right? I'm saying you use Gordon Ramsay. Wait, Gordon. Where is he? Gordon! Yeah, get down there, Gordon. Yeah, get down there. So fine dining restaurants like wait, he's a head pat. 17 FPS. There we go. So you know what I mean. So you have things like fine dining restaurants like Gordon Ramsay's, where he's doing all of his like stuff, right? And he's like making his fancy dishes and like stuff, and they run on their own, you know, very distinct system, and they have, you know, changes very often to their offerings, right? A franchise restaurant usually basically never changes their offerings unless it's for a major marketing deal, but usually only 1 or 2 at a time. A fine dining restaurant can change their entire menu seasonally, weekly, quarterly. Like you never really know. It's really up to their whim, right? Then you have this like third one. Okay, this third one is where, you know, I would want to say 99% of restaurants basically lie, because this third one is your mom and pop restaurant, but it's not really a mom and pop kind of deal. It could be even like a smaller restaurant place that's just owned by a sole proprietor. They sort of like just like do their own thing, right? But in general, this third type of restaurant is like a table service place. It's generally very, very small. It's like it can grow to be very, very large, but at that point I consider those like in the fine dining bucket. Even though it may not be traditional fine dining, it has a lot of the same elements in terms of like what you have to do for fine dining, but also a lot of the elements of like a franchise as like well. So it's a kind of like, you know, it's a mix of the like two, but it's not distinct enough to where you can really call it, because I've only ever known a handful of places that like operate at that level that aren't either fully fine dining or fully franchise, right? Usually it's dim sum places. Usually dim sum places are the things at that scale that are that kind of sit in between those like two categories, right? A mom and pop or a sole proprietor place, just some person running their own shop. Imagine, you guys, what's that movie? Chef movie. Chef with Jon Favreau, right? Basically that, right? It's basically that. Same levels of stress, same levels of profanity, same levels of like poor health and like stuff like that. That's basically what we're going for, okay? This is the restaurant that I find most interesting because technology can be integrated very, very well if your business has two things: scale or high value, right? Why scale or high value, okay? Technology serves both cases very differently. In high value, it serves to make you. Technology serves to allow you to capture more of that value that you may be losing due to inefficiencies, right? At scale, like say for a McDonald's, it works the opposite way. It helps you like gain value by optimizing your processes, right? For a small sort of like sole proprietor restaurant, it's very hard to determine where technology would fit. And one of these use cases that I had to do for this particular work was trying to figure out how a point of sale system would actually fit into this whole system and how they could optimize their line operations in the back. For context, this is a very traditional kind of restaurant, right? And these restaurants kind of pop up all over the place, right? It's your average place. They take your order on paper, they run the paper back, they yell to the back, 2 eggs and bacon, and then, you know what I mean, and then they bring you like a cup of like maple syrup or like something, right? It's just a Canadian way. We drink maple syrup and we dip our like eggs and bacon inside of it, and then we go outside to like lick like snow when we're thirsty, right? The fascinating part is that that's a system that works up to a very large degree, right? In essence, there's not really much that you can really optimize, right? The food that you cook can't be like, I hate this term so much, because it is entirely a tech invention to add the suffix ize, not ize, ize, to the ending of a word to make it sound fancy. But it's difficult to productionize something that is very small in scale and usually bespoke, because it's just like there's not really much value to it, right? And people will come in and ask for different things, and it's like it's kind of hard because these are like, you know, more complex dishes than just assembling a hamburger, right? And also, like, do you really want to, like, if you're serving like a hamburger joint on your own, do you really want to freeze 50 patties beforehand just to figure out how to do this stuff? You might, but you don't need a heavy, you know, tech machinery to do it. You don't need a factory like Walmart does. You don't need to grow your own cabbage and lettuce like Walmart does. A fine dining restaurant, on the other hand, will be going for quality, not quantity. And they'll be trying to get value from that quality, and they'll be upcharging based on that and based on their skills and stuff. And so what ends up happening is that they use technology in the other way, again, like I said, to capture more of the value by getting rid of some inefficiencies in their processes, right? At some level, or it may be just like, you know, replacing an older process that, you know, just wasn't, that was siphoning away too much money. It's basically like a value assessment. Basically. It's a very simplified way of saying it. There are some areas where it could work there. But like, you know what I mean? Like, a franchise restaurant is going to want a factory to make things. Fine dining restaurant is going to want the highest quality. Your mom and pop shop, sole proprietorship, it's really going to be up to whatever they feel like, and it's usually going to be down to best quality for the value. It's going to be a balance of the two, usually. So there's no real way to really make the production of the food any higher quality, any more efficient to the point where you get more value out of it. And so you look at, okay, what about the processes? Well, the process is usually just the owner of the shop in the back yelling at the people in the front and just making food in the back and just tossing it out the window, right? Usually 1 or 2 people. Maybe you can get like a dishwasher, and that's great because you save a lot on money over the long term. But even then, you have to, you know, be able to convince them, is that upfront cost worth it for their volume, right? Usually, it's going to be very hard to justify the upfront cost of volume when you can just pay someone $15 an hour for 2 hours a day to wash all your dishes and just leave, fuck off, and then come back, right? It's, you know what I mean? Like there's very different costs involved. It's a very different scale involved, and yet they still have a lot of the same problems that these other types of restaurants do. A mom and pop restaurant still has to deal with sourcing goods. Mom and pop restaurant still has to deal with communicating between front and back, which is a large physical distance. It can be a very large physical distance, right? Communicating changes quickly and efficiently, and keeping track of a large number of orders such that you don't bring things out of order, and you don't bring things too late, and you don't bring things too early, right? They also have to deal, all of them, with inventory tracking, right? Just at very different scales. And so, you know, for a fine dining restaurant, sometimes there's a lot of scale. It really depends. Like if you go to like a fancy, I forget the restaurant's name. It's in New York. I recently watched a video about it on Bon Appetit or something. I don't know. Or, you know, if you're McDonald's and like stuff, you have like a lot of high quality goods at like a decent volume, or you have a lot of like, you know, just like goods in McDonald's case at like a huge volume, right? A family dining restaurant doesn't really have either of those. It's a smaller volume. It's variable quality, but they still need to keep track of it because otherwise they won't know what to do. And so it's like technology doesn't make that any easier because it's so small that the owner can just take a 5-second break, run to the freezer and check, is it full, is it empty? No, it's like good. Okay, we'll just stop selling it. And they just yell to the front, "Hey, Carol, stop selling the beans!" Right? And they just stop selling beans. So technology is very hard to integrate into this case. In this particular case, this restaurant is a growing and like bustling place that has now gotten to the point where their processes are actually starting to become less efficient. When they approached me, they were like, "Hey, like we actually are struggling to get a handle on what we like do, and we want to see if this system would work. They want to see if a point of sale system could somehow speed up their processes." The problem is that because these are mom and pop places, usually the sole proprietor is not someone who is very into technology, and or they're old, right? Those two things present two very different challenges. One is that when they're old, I found they tend to be very resistant to change, and so it's very difficult to convince them that like, hey, like these things could be better, but also like how do I get information out of you that helps me determine if it's better? I'm not trying to steal your recipes, I just want to know. If it's somebody who's, you know, just doesn't know technology, old or young, it's very difficult to explain this in a way that makes sense to them, but it's also very difficult to get them to stop thinking about the technology, right? So usually what happens is when somebody comes to me, they'll have an idea of this technology stack that they have in like mind. We want a POS system with 3 or 4 printers in the back, and we want to send all of these. And I'm like, don't even say that, because you're probably not going to want that. And then I talk to them about the specifics of how this is going to work. I'm like, okay, 3 to 4 printers. Are your stations stable? Yes. How do you split your dishes up? Well, these dishes go here, these dishes go there, but then also some dishes kind of overlay and like stack. I'm like, okay, how you going to teach your like, you know, your back of house how to like handle all of this, right? And it's like, how are you going to know how to use these systems? Like, how are you going to manage these systems? And then it's like, how are you going to set these systems up? And it's like, who's going to run these systems long term for you? And it's like a lot of questions that you realize that they've never thought of because they don't think about technology the same way that somebody who knows technology would think about it, right? And so the hardest part for me, being in this weird like half space, because the space that I work in is this integration space, right? It is not fully tech, and so I'm so fully divorced that I just make a point of sale system that doesn't care about what they do. It's just how I think a restaurant should run. But I'm also not so fully food that I only think about the food, and I don't really care what system. I don't care what system management uses. I just want to get the food out. Fuck off, right? I'm in a space where it's like I need to take the needs of one side, which is almost always the restaurant side. It is so rare for the technology side to define the restaurant side to the point where I've only ever seen it once, and it was like a weird franchise fine dining upscale place. It was like a weird place. Otherwise, it's almost always the food and then, you know, the restaurant itself and then that side of the business, then determining what software and like tech that they have to integrate into it. In general, this is how it usually works, right? This poor company had no clue. Well, this is a restaurant. I call them a company because it's just whatever a term. But this poor business, this poor restaurant, had no clue what they actually wanted, and so I had to basically break them down and basically say like, okay, what do you want? Irrespective of what the technique is, okay? I could do it on paper. I could do it by hiring you more people. It doesn't matter. Tell me what you want to be done. And they finally vocalized it to me. This was a very long discussion. I'm very sort of like wrapping it all up in like a very quick like way. But the discussion took about an hour, well, an hour a day for like, I would want to say like a week or so. Because that's how much time they like have. Again, running a restaurant at a small scale, you kind of don't have free time. So I kind of have to like pop in, pop out whenever they're available, right? And so you get down to like brass tacks and you realize that they want more efficiencies to help their growing scale. They're now at the point where the restaurant is usually always packed. It's not a big place, right? It's not a very fancy big place. It's not like your average like dim sum shop where it's like you have like multiple tables and you got carts going around all over the place and it's basically like a giant banquet hall. It's also not your fine dining place where there's only 2 or 3 tables, right? These places usually sit in between. 7, 8 tables is like a lot as is. But even then, it's still not like a super huge amount. I've seen dinings as small as like 1 table. That's just you just sat there and you eat. It was like a very small place, and it goes all the way up to like 12 tables, 14 tables, 16 tables. Those are like still very very different scales. They're roughly at the 7 to 8 table scale, and I've seen that there's a lot of inefficiencies in the process. And they tell me very, very clearly, Stick, we have problems communicating within the restaurant, and we have problems keeping track of everything that needs to be done. I'm like, okay, now that's the actual problem, right? And so then I can work with that, right? And so usually when you take these problems, you have to break it down into like, what is the actual problem? Because then you can start to see what the solution could be, because it could be any number of like things, right? So they start telling me about how they run. Again, like I said way before, most restaurants will run basically just on paper, and it's very easy, right? You have that carbon copy paper that like everyone has, where you write on top, and on the bottom it's like a copy of what you have, and you pull one off. One's for front of house, one's for back of house, and you just give it to the back, and you yell out 2 beans and eggs and toast and well, whatever, like bacon, right? Very simple stuff. It's very simple. You have a window, you give it to the guy in the back, he yells out to everyone else, and you basically just like do it like that, right? It's hard to beat that system because it's so cheap and so efficient, because you can just use a pen and a paper, and it's very easy with a pen to just cross off things that you're done with, right? But for them, they were having problems with this because one piece of paper cannot accommodate an entire back of house for the complex dishes that they're now starting to like make, right? They used to have very simple dishes, and now they've gone into more complex stuff that requires a lot of different stations, right? This is sort of like both a blessing and a curse. It really depends on the type of business that you run. What I've noticed is that for ethnic restaurants, because this was an ethnic restaurant in like my culture, and so I know exactly what they're like trying to like cook. It's usually more often than not the case that there's a lot of variety in the types of dishes that you can output, because a lot of the base ingredients are very much the same, but it's how you combine them that changes the flavors, right? Or you can or like you'll combine various complex bases like at the end when you're preparing it to make like a more complex output dish, right? So it usually happens that, you know, the menu ends up being like 100 items, right? I know Gordon Ramsay, you know, bless his soul, on the bottom right, always says you shouldn't have more than, you know, 10, 20 dishes, but it really depends. It really depends on your business and what you can handle, and also what your clientele expects. For a lot of people, having a lot of choices, you know, giving everyone the like choice, because it's more of a community joint, is much more important than keeping like a manageable menu, especially if they can still deliver on the same amount of quality, which they usually can, right? So being a community-based sort of like family restaurant, you know what I mean, style thing, it makes sense why they have so many dishes, but it also meant that their back of house was now more complicated, right? They've now moved on to having multiple stations, which is not a very uncommon concept, right? Even in very small places, you're gonna have your own stations. You have like your fry station, you have your, I don't know, your grills, you've got your I don't know, your hot stoves, right? You've got your cold prep area, you've got your like drink prep area, right? Like usually that's like how it's split up, and there's usually more areas in the back depending on what you need, with a common ingredient center of like stuff like your mise en place, right? Mise en place. I'm not good with like French. I know the terms somewhat in English, but I usually only know the terms in like my own mother tongue. So I'm not gonna say much of them very, very right. I only looked up the translations basically last night when I was planning this like segment. And so they're getting to this point where their inefficiencies are starting to show, because they have one piece of paper, they now have to split it across 4 different stations, right? And the one person says it, but again, in a restaurant, it's very, very loud, okay? Usually in a smaller restaurant, the noise isn't like a major issue. You will usually overpower, or you can use different systems. Like they have experimented with a PA system. I've been to many different places that use a PA system. Again, very small mom and pop places. They use a PA system, and they're like, to number 27, right? And it's like, you know, that literally just happened. I went to like a plaza. Again, that third place plaza that I talked about last time. Got some very good, very succulent Chinese meal. And it was very, very good. But even that starts to, you know, fall apart once you get into the mix of things, right? When it gets very, very busy, it's very hard to listen to an order, keep it in mind, and then deal with that when you've got 7 other orders piled up. And you can't just, you know, have multiple different pieces of like paper, because nobody's made carbon copy paper that can copy onto 7 different carbon copies. It would be sick, but also imagine like your front of house carrying around this giant ass like booklet of like carbon copies, and it's like 7, and it's like a 7 copy deep like carbon copy paper. It'd be insane, right? It also doesn't scale, because what if you add another station? Well, guess what? I gotta find a new supplier for carbon copy paper. It just doesn't work. So they're running into issues, sort of like getting these orders out on time. They're finding a lot more mistakes. Things are happening a lot more. The efficiency is going down. The throughput goes down when the entire restaurant gets very congested, right? The thing is that they're all very good at the job, but and they know that they've worked out all the inefficiencies as much as they can on their current system in terms of like, manual processes, right? It's just a human limitation that you can only remember so much, and you can only keep track of so many details. And if you don't have a way to write it down and keep track of it all, and you don't have somebody who's like able to run everything all at once, it's very difficult. Okay. And again, these owners are old. They can't run everything the same way that they used to. They want a system that's going to make it easier for them as well as their employees and reduce the amount of stress and reduce the amount of stuff that's going to happen. And so a POS system was what they thought of, and it's what I ultimately recommended as well. And ultimately, what I decided on as like an interim solution was a POS system that printed out each item to each station as it came in, but only for that station, right? This way, each station can keep track of their own items, and they can then revert to their manual method of like checking things off and stuff on like paper. Because again, it's a very older clientele of like workers, and also like it's like a bunch of workers that like, you know what I mean? Like it's like a language barrier thing, and also it's like how to explain this? A lot of them come from a place where this technology just isn't very common, and so it's like, you know what I mean, like you want to lessen the amount of learning barriers as much as possible, and you don't want to use too digital of a tool because it's still slower, right? I've seen digital displays for restaurants. They're usually dog shit. Digital displays that say like, oh, these orders are up, and it keeps like moving in this like weird Kanban style board. Yeah, those are usually dog shit because the touchscreen is usually ass. The responsiveness is like low, and it's way easier to take a pen in your hand, swipe something off, put the pen down, and you're done. The only annoying part is that you have to wash your hand to pick up the pen, but you still have to anyways for the iPad, which has the digital display, right? So that was the plan that I went with, right? We get to talking, and then they say, okay, well, we actually don't know how, and like I realized that they don't have any choices, and they rely on me to like figure it out, right? Which is almost always going to be the case. It's rare that somebody comes in knowing which one they want based on their needs, but most of the time I have to ask a bunch of details to get a sense of like how the restaurant works to even figure out which system would work best. And so I know from their system that they have a course meal. It's a very rare thing to have a course meal at a restaurant. Extremely rare, okay? At like a family style restaurant. It's the kind of thing that you only see in like, fancy fine dining places. But this place had it as like a special thing that was just done by the owner. It was actually pretty cool. It's also very rare to have such complex needs for their dishes in terms of like different stations, but at least that's more common than a course dish. I also realized how their back work was that they have very limited space in their back, and so there's no way I can fit very huge machines in there, right? And so there's no way a digital display would have worked. And again, because their working base is very like old as well, having something that's like too small for them to like read or too digital and too new and too fancy is also a detriment to their ability to work, right? And they don't want to lose them because again, obviously, I would never advocate replacing someone for the sake of a piece of technology. That's kind of a shit dick move, right? For the most part, I would work it towards them instead. And honestly, it's a better system. Anyways, I personally hate digital displays in like restaurants because again, responsiveness is a major issue and like uptime is a major issue. And also, their restaurant had power issues. Like, there's a whole bunch of shit that I had to like deal with, right? So I narrowed it down to the system. But this also makes it complex from choosing a system from a software perspective, which POS software to use, point of sale software, POS, right? That's the acronym. The printers are very easy. You know how to set them up. But your POS system now has to do a number of things, right? It now has to be able to print different items only to the area that it affects. So you need printers set up for each different prep station, right? Effectively. You also need to do it such that if a course item comes in, you print something that's for that course item, that you can reference back that this is for a particular table's course item, but also that each constituent part of that course goes to each different prep station, and that you can fire each prep station's or like each like section of that course separately, right? And so it's like, firing orders and courses is a very normal thing for every POS system out there, but prep stations, I found out, is not a very normal thing to have in every POS out there. I ran a spreadsheet, and this is where I tend to find technology gets very interesting because as an integrator, you usually work with off-the-shelf software. You never usually work with your own custom built software because, again, building a system like a POS is simple up until you deal with financial integrations, in which case you need to follow FDIC compliance if you're in the States, or I think it's like CRA compliance or something, I don't know, in Canada. And you need $500,000 plus a 24/7 arm length guard, right? Like, it's very difficult, right? And so when I looked at all these requirements for the software, I went out and I looked at the POSs. I built a spreadsheet that basically looked at all these different things. I can't show the spreadsheet because I think it has personal information, but basically it boiled down to, out of 8 POSs that I checked that were available in Canada in this particular location, only 2 allowed you to do prep stations, as well as breaking down a course item by its constituents, pushing them to different prep stations, and allowing you to fire them, okay? And the worst part is, out of those 2, the other ones I have no clue, and I'm going to show you why. This is one of the POS systems, Clover. This is one of the ones that I was not really recommended, but a friend of mine said that they use it at some point, and they said, it's alright, maybe it can work for you. And I was like, alright, I'll trust you, because they run a restaurant themselves. Nowhere in this system does it let you try it out? Does it let you even learn what it does? So let's say I want to use the Clover system, okay? How do I try it out? Well, let's see. Is there a try button? No. On the top right, it says connect to sales. And even in the portion that I cut off, it says connect to sales. I'm like, okay, so I click okay to get that shit off, right? And it tells me everything you need to run your business smarter, faster, and easier. And he looks like he's in the kitchen, so it's great, right? And then I look and it's like, well, actually, if you want to know, contact sales, connect to sales. I'm like, oh, okay, well, I don't really, like, why do I want to buy something before I even know what it does, right? So I go down and I start to read more and more. And this is the usual problem with these systems when you integrate third-party systems, is they're selling to a different person than you would think, okay? They don't sell to the people who are running the restaurants, nor do they sell to the people who are helping the restaurant integrate. They're selling to the manager of a franchisee, like an owner of a franchisee, of a franchise. Sorry. They're selling to a franchisee who may have one or multiple franchises, or they're selling to a corporation that like runs corporate restaurants like The Keg or a Red Lobster, right? And so you get down and it's like, okay, well, what does the system do? Does it let me do the stuff that allows me the back of house and the front of house to work together? Because front of house needs to process payments, they need to do custom stuff, they need to be able to like fire stuff, they need to be able to like tell the back house without having to walk to the back and like do stuff by like voice, which is use your heart. Let's read each one. Easier payments. Okay, I mean that's great, but that's like, this isn't like core table stakes, right? Again, when you work in any business, if you're not working in a purely technological space, you need to keep in mind the requirements of the business that you're working with, right? If it's a pure tech business, like say a video game, you can just focus on the game itself and you're fine. But if you run a technology thing that's gonna work with something else that has like a real life thing, even if it's like, or like even if it doesn't have like a real life location, as long as it's not like a piece of like software itself, even if it is a piece of software, you just need to be aware of like what that thing needs, right? What that other piece of software that you're working with needs, or what this business type needs. Okay, and so table stakes, I know a restaurant needs, at least for this restaurant, they need to be able to cook. They need to be able to cook and bring orders to the back. Okay. Again, Clover is a system that is designed for restaurants. I was recommended this because apparently this is a long-term POS system that has always been used for restaurants. So this is their main site, by the way, their Canadian site. I don't know if that changes anything, but it's the main sites. Tighter tracking. Whether you sell coffee or memberships, all purchases are more secure and trackable. That doesn't matter to me. How the hell does this help me serve food faster? How does this help me push food faster? How does this help me fire food faster? How does this help me keep track of my inventory so I know whether I can sell food? Happier customers. Offer the best possible customer service while building loyalty at your place of business and online. I'm going to tell you right now, I don't know a single person who goes to a restaurant who would be loyal to you if you don't sell them fucking food. If I went to a restaurant and they said, hey, would you like to have a loyalty card? And I try to order something and they say, no, you don't eat here. You just get a loyalty card. I tell them to fuck off. What are you doing there? What are you doing, right? And so this, none of this, like, already these 3 points don't make any sense. None of this works for me as the technological integrator, because this doesn't tell me how to actually use it. This doesn't really tell me what it does. It doesn't really tell me much at all. It doesn't tell me the capabilities of the system technologically. It also doesn't help the restaurant business because it's not meeting any of their core table stakes needs, right? You can click on to learn more, and we will soon, because I'm going to show you how crazy it is when you click on learn more days. More flexibility. Manage your business and make a sale from anywhere with a dashboard, mobile app, and virtual terminal. Again, only really useful to a franchisee who owns a lot of restaurants, a corporate business who runs corporate restaurants, a mom and pop shop. They're right there in the kitchen. Why do they need to manage their business or sale from anywhere? They're literally in the back cooking. They're yelling at you, hey, give me the fucking paper. So you scroll down and you're like, okay, you know what I mean? Like, maybe this is just a sell to their high value clients, and maybe then they'll get onto the spiel about like how this actually helps you run a restaurant, right? This is a POS that was recommended to me as a primarily for restaurants. In fact, you can see up here, the first one that they list in this list of business types is table service restaurants, then counter service restaurants, and then retail. Retail is not their forte. If you want retail, you go for Square or something. If you want restaurants, it seems like you go for Clover. Flexible, scalable, and ready for anything. Take your business online. What business? I can't even sell anything because this thing doesn't fucking work. What business? Online ordering for restaurants. Accept and easily manage online ordering with Clover online ordering from popular food delivery aggregators. How does this help me make food? How does that help me make food? That just means, all this means is I have to make more food. But this thing doesn't help me make food. It just means I have more food that I have to make that I can't make very easily because this thing doesn't help me make the food. E-commerce for retail. Now hold the fuck on. That's your tier 3 offering. Okay? That is your like this is like your like nephew Jimmy's like side business. Is like he wants to run his own Hot Topic, and so he decided, yo uncle, or like yo grandpa, can I use your POS system to run this shit, yo? And you're like, all right Jimmy, oh you crazy kid, and you do it for him. What the fuck is this here? Why is it on the second page on the second item? This doesn't make any sense. Retail? What happened to restaurants? What happened to this? Where's the information? Online invoicing. Get paid faster by emailing payment requests to your customers and letting them pay you online. What are they paying me for? They're paying me for nothing because I can't make fucking food with this. What? How is this going to help me make food better? How is this going to help me make food more efficiently? And you have to be vicious about this, okay? Because as an integrator, the people who are coming to you for this type of help, they're relying on you for this type of help. Okay, you are literally their guardian angel. If you choose the wrong thing, you fuck their business for life. They have to unfuck it, and they're not gonna unfuck it with you because they no longer trust you. They gotta hire someone else at a higher rate to unfuck it for them. You fuck them. Don't fuck your clients, right? Don't fuck them. Don't fuck with them. Don't fuck them. Just don't fuck. So you have to be vicious about, analyzing these things. Because again, sales tracking and reporting, it doesn't help me sell. It doesn't help me cook better. Cash flow management, I'm not making money if I can't cook more efficiently. I said popular phones payment. Point of sale systems, this is getting closer. Let's open this up in a new tab. See what Clover can do for your business, okay? Now this is interesting, okay? I saw this and I was like, okay, maybe there's still hope, right? This is a full service restaurant. It's not a counter service restaurant. Their waiters going to have tables, so I was like, okay, maybe this will tell me something, right? And then down here it says connect to sales. It's like, I don't even know if I want to buy this yet, so no. Let's click on full service restaurants, okay? This is the most pretentious shit I've ever seen. I don't know who the fuck it's selling it to. Full service dining has always been about the experience. You don't think the restaurateurs know this? This is something that restaurateurs know. Times have changed, but our commitment to restaurant just hasn't. Get the restaurant POS that gives you what you need in these challenging times. Online ordering, that's not what I need. Contactless payments, that's not what I need. And real-time reporting, that's not what I need. At table stakes, that's not what restaurants need from a POS. If restaurants needed this from a POS, they could just use Facebook. I'm not even kidding you. A lot of restaurants at this level that do online ordering and like stuff like that, they do e-transfers, which in Canada is like the equivalent of like Venmo and Cash App in the States, but like free, because it's like a banking thing. and they use Facebook. Like people just message them on like Facebook with their order. They pay in advance with the transfer. They get and they come and like pick it up. If that's all they needed, they would just do this. And it's a very common thing for these small restaurants to like have. It's just Facebook. So if that's all I needed was just these three, I wouldn't use a POS, right? Because then this POS, this point of sale, would be a POS. It would be a piece of shit, right? And so usually what happens is that these pieces of shit, you know, have no clue what you actually want, but they try to be pretentious about it. They try to say that they understand you, bro, because it's always about the experience. No. Help me serve food more efficiently. How does this help me run my operation more efficiently as a restaurateur? Our sales experts are waiting to talk to you. You haven't even told me what you could do for me. What do you mean connected sales? Rev up your online ordering. That's not what I need! Interesting scan to order. Wow. And then you get to this point where you're like, okay, like this is kind of related to like the, you know, to the flow of like running a restaurant, right? But taking an order is like the very, very first step. And it's like, you already have a menu. It fucking works. Why do you want an online menu that you now have to manage online? Unless this helps you for online ordering too. But guess what? When people order off of Facebook, there's a PDF or an image of your menu on your Facebook account for your Facebook page for your restaurant, and they just order off of that. I'm not even shitting you. That's how most of these small restaurants are run. So this doesn't help me at all if I'm a restaurateur trying to make my operation more efficient at a small scale. Now you start to see the insanity, right? And this is stuff that like you'll never like read about in like stuff. You'll never read about the stuff when people tell you like, oh, run your own business or something. And you'll never really understand what this means when you're trying to be like a consultant. But you're dealing with shit like this. You as a consultant now need to wade through the business bullshit to get to the technical goods to understand if their technical goods can serve your business needs aside from all the technical bullshit. I mean, aside from all the business bullshit. Absolutely fascinating, absolutely mind-blowing how shit these places are though. Because again, a POS system that is designed for restaurants first, okay? Restaurants first doesn't even tell me how this is going to help me run my restaurant more efficiently, okay? I'm lucky that I have experience on both sides too, that I know about the restaurant side as well as the technical side, and so I can actually, you know, communicate on both sides very well, and I can use that to actually assess these very, very well. Otherwise, I'd be shit out of luck. If I was only on one side, I wouldn't know. Clover introducing Clove 9. There's now a video, okay? Let's watch this video. It has a POS system here. You can see some like tables. It's like, okay, cool. Inspired by restaurateurs. Okay, how do you use it? Okay, useless shot. Useless shot. Useless shot. Useless shot. Useless shot. Useless shot. Maybe kind of a good shot. Kind of a good shot. Yeah, see the stats of every table. Provide wait times. That's pretty good, right? Track bar tabs. If you don't have a bar, it's useless. If you have a bar, that's fine. Without collecting credit cards. Okay, fine. That's pretty good. Seat parties. Seat parties. I'm sorry. Is this POS system gonna roll out a fucking Segway to the customer and then tell them, please step on me. I will guide you to your table. And then it rolls them out to their table? No! No, it won't! No! It's a fucking manual process! I'm getting mad. I was yelling like this for the entire week. I was calling these people and I was like, what the fuck does your system do? Right? Seat parties. Transfer tab to the table, which is, you know, pretty cool, sure. Like you now have like you're now able to like transfer people away from different sections in your front of the house. That's a good feature. That's 2 out of like 20 shots that are fairly useful. 3 shots, right? It still doesn't really tell me how this like works and what this eventually entails, but still that's like 3 shots that are useful, right? How does it work? Can you split it up into prep stations? I don't know. Now it's telling me delight my guests. What do you think I'm trying to do? What the fuck do you think I'm trying to do? Trying to run a fucking restaurant? Split the bills. You can do this by hand. It doesn't matter. Securely pay at the table. That's pretty good. 4. Balance and manage staff. I don't think you need this in a POS. IMO, a POS, when it starts to get into like, you know, staff management, it gets kind of crazy. Because it's like, usually at these small places, again, the owner is there 24/7. They know who's working and they know who's like not. They know who's skipped because the owner was there before everyone else, so they leave after everyone else. And so it's like, it doesn't really help them to like track staff like this. Again, this is a feature designed for somebody who's not there, aka corporate restaurants or franchisees. Run reports. That's kind of useful from anywhere, I mean, I guess. But guess what? At that scale, what are you running a report on? You're not optimizing based on sales like you can, but it's not really what you're going to be doing. You're still doing what you kind of want. You know what I mean? And you know from a general sense what sells well based on the orders that come in. And that's it. That's the entire video is do what you do best. Thanks. So out of 30 shots, it told me maybe 4 useful things, and I still don't know if this will actually work for this restaurant because it doesn't even tell me on a technical level how it integrates with things like prep stations, how I can split things between printers, how it even works, how you can even use it, and will it even work for them, okay? So we go down again. Online ordering. Again, this is not what any restaurant needs, right? It's useful, but this is not table stakes for restaurants. Contactless experience. I'm sorry, dog, but your chef's sweat determines the taste of your food. If your chef is sweating real nice that day, and the sweat tastes very, very salty, your food will be bussin'. Okay? If their sweat it tastes off, they've been jerking off too much, and they didn't wash their hands after, your food will taste kind of fishy. All right? That's just the way it goes. All right? So this is also not really something that is table stakes for a restaurant. Full service mobility is as mobile and flexible as you need it to be. This is kind of useful because you want your front of house not to be bound to a single fucking counter at the front. This counter, a single counter, would be useless. Or at the bar or something, customers don't have to walk up. You want to give table service, so this is the only useful one. 2 great restaurants, POS systems both come contactless. Station Dual Flex, which comes with managing space for our tables, and curbside transactions breeze. Great for your pop-up counter, while the Flex allows you to move between table. What does it do? Contact sales. The Mini, what does this do? I know, contact sales. Connect to sales. Connect to sales. How do I use this? Support designed with restaurateurs in mind. Why do I need your support if I'm not even going to buy you? Tableside, delivery, and curbside. Flexible mobile POS, that's fine. Clover account for phone orders, that's kind of useful, right? Now we get into the meat and bones. Connect your back and house. Keep your lines of communication humming. Assign orders to courses and fire when desired. Mind you, we have gone through, look at the scroll bar. You can't see it. We've gone through 50% of this page and the entire front page in a point of sale system that is designed for table service restaurants first. From your home page, I had to scroll to the very bottom, read all of this, realize none of this helps me, see this, hope that this helps me, as I'm crying, go all the way down halfway through the page, start to give up, and then I finally see something that maybe helps me, right? I'm like, oh god, yes, finally, yes. Is there any information on this? Fire orders. Make orders more precise. Get modifiers like extra cheese and stuff. I need this, right? The restaurant needs this, so it's good. You can fire it together or let the kitchen pace the meal. Include special guest requests like allergies so no one dies. Very useful, right? Fire orders to the kitchen to the moment that they're placed and change them even after they're fired. Great, okay. What are prep stations? Fuck you! Welcome back to payments, baby. Fuck you. Keep your guests happy and safety. Happy and safe. Fuck you. Run your restaurant from anywhere. Fuck you. When there's a need, we've got the app. What are you selling me? Are you selling me an app store? This is not an iPhone. Accessories tailor-made for restaurants. Let's check out accessories and apps. Fuck it. Just for fun. And you get down to here and you're like, wait. Out of this entire page, it told me one thing. It told me one table stakes thing for running my restaurant. This. And I don't even know still if it works for this restaurant because I don't know how it actually works. So I try to find information on. I'm clicking on everything at this point, okay? I'm doing a play of what I did. You go through and you realize none of this shit even tells you anything. It's just a bunch of marketing spiel, okay? And this is not just this POS. Out of every single point of sale system or piece of shit system that I saw, all of them had this kind of breakdown. Every single one. And it's like, dude, none of these work for helping me understand how this works for a restaurant, okay? So we're back at square one. I do my assessment. Gordon Ramsay's getting really fucking mad. He's like, Stick, I've got a restaurant to fucking run. Where the fuck is my POS? I'm like, sorry, Mr. Gordon, sir. I don't know which one actually works for you because I don't know how these actually make your order. I don't know how these make your restaurant process any easier. And so there's only 2 that allow me to actually see what they do. I forget the names now because I'll talk about how this whole project died, also. And so I finally break it down and then I get them to talking about it. But this is one of the problems with like technology and integrating with like older business that people don't really tell you about, is that you have to really do your work on assessment, and you really need to understand the business side, what they need, and as well as the technological side, what it can do to serve those needs. Otherwise, you're going to be sold on that pretty typography on things that don't work at all for the customer base in like question. These poor owners would have gotten shit had I not actually, broken down these POS systems that they gave me to check out. Clover was one of the ones that they gave me to check out. Okay, that's the twist, is that it was not just my friend, it was also the owner themselves who gave me this to check out, because they saw it on an ad on Facebook. And I'm like, okay, great. This doesn't help you solve your problem. There's no way to split it by like prep station to make it easier for your particular working force. And yet that's not an uncommon feature. Quite a few POS systems have this now that I found out after delving into it more, but 2 at the time I found out, and were the only ones that gave me documentation to actually see how to make it happen. And then you realize very quickly that that's actually a very important need, because guess what? In a busy restaurant, you really, really don't want to rely on someone's voice and memory to do everything. It's very difficult, okay? Having a piece of paper that everyone tracks on their own and keeps track of, and tools to allow them to keep track of it, to basically reduce the amount of errors due to loss of memory, right? It's very useful to have. IMO. For any type of restaurant, whether you're old or you're young, mistakes always happen. You want to minimize the possibility of mistakes by eliminating surface areas where mistakes could happen. This is my mindset going into a lot of these technological decisions, is how can I give you the best solution for the best value that also makes your experience smooth and seamless by reducing the surface area for things and problems to arise. And so you end up with this space where it's like, there's only a couple of products that actually fit your fit your needs, right? And this is the kind of breakdown that you need to do. You need to really understand this stuff. And so I give it back to them. And so I give them my plan on what to do. And the whole plan falls apart because they realize, well, they actually don't think it would work very well. We try a test run. I do a very, very quick dry run with fake printers, right? And I do it by hand, by paper, and I'm pretending to be a printer running back and forth. And we realize that, hey, this system doesn't actually make it too much faster for them. It's not fast enough to warrant the upfront cost of basically $2,500, right? It's not much in the grand scheme of things, but $2,500 plus a $60 subscription fee over time is a lot of money to have to swallow, right? So they go down and they just, they use it for payment processor integration, which is fine. I just give them my recommendations based on what I've heard is very, very good. And that goes very swimmingly well. But when I was doing this, I realized how much shit there was in the restaurant industry that is so tailored towards a different kind of person, right? And all these systems are tailored towards a third type of person that is usually the person that is not most affected by the stuff. You saw that marketing spiel. I'm a person who has experience on both sides. I used to work in a restaurant, and I also work in tech, right? And so it's on both sides, neither of the sides were met by any of that stuff on that website, and so I don't even know if that product would have worked for me or for that restaurant, for them to be able to do what they needed to do. And so imagine, who is this third person that this stuff is going to actually be useful for? What is all that marketing Who is all that marketing copy for? The same thing that I said before when talking about all those game things. It's for the person at the top who drinks snake oil like it's water. They drink snake oil like it's water. You need to convince them on how much money it can possibly make them, and then they throw it down for everyone else to figure out at the expense of them now running a worse ship because these systems don't work for them. There is countless tales of POS systems that fail for restaurateurs or just people inside restaurants all the time, because the people who threw these systems onto them from the very, very top didn't really understand what they were doing, but they were enticed by this marketing copy. And so as a integrator, as a consultant of any kind, when you do these technological choices, you have a certain mindset in it too. Because it's very easy to do that and then lose a client forever. If you want to foster a good client relationship and you want to actually be able to make money for them, and thus conversely money for you in the long run, you really need to take care to actually do the right thing by them. And that is give them a system that actually works by their needs. And again, this also comes back to, how to assess something technologically, making sure that you understand how to actually set everything up, both from hardware and software perspective is fine and dandy. But primarily, when you run your own consultancy or do consultations for anything, technology-wise, you realize very quickly that it's not about your technological skills. You could be the best coder in the entire world and it wouldn't fucking matter. You need to understand business. You need to understand the business that you're going into. You need to put you need to put the legwork into understanding what they do, how they do things, what they need, and what actually works best for them. Otherwise, you're gonna give them shit on a platter. Sure, it's a very nice fancy platter, but it's still shit. So that's basically what I was doing. And I thought that was a very fun, sort of interesting story to talk about because again, that was my life for the past like week. Thankfully I'm now working on small things for them, and I also work on menus for some people just because like I have like a small mini tool that I'm working on to make menus easier. I can't show it because it would immediately dox who I work for. But it is handy, at least for me, to be able to quickly manage menus because every menu has like a weird fucking format. But every single menu is also a very pretty predefined thing. And every tool to make like a menu or like a brochure, like an informational pamphlet, is way too complicated for your mom and pop to like figure out. And so it's down to me to like make it in like a system that's way easier. I just made it for myself and it ended up being like useful for like them. And also, I'm also slowly getting them up to speed on like or at least like comfortable with the idea of like using printers in that way and like prep stations. Now they're starting to come back and like now they've said like, oh, actually it is significantly faster because like they tried it themselves actually but like manually copying things, and they realized that it made things a lot easier, and they realized that their mistakes went like down. So now they're moving forward on like things, so I can adjust some things I like work. But it's fascinating to me, sort of like, how much work it took to get here. Again, I thought this was going to be a single day contract. I'm like, there's no fucking way a POS system could be that bad, right? No, they're absolutely awful. And so you leave with this like sickening sense that like, there's a bunch of technology out there that is made to really prey on this sort of like segment of like markets that doesn't know what any of this technology really means. And they're really just there to take money from them, to really swindle them out of all of their earnings to make a quick buck. And they don't really care if the product is like good or like bad, and they don't really give you a chance to like try because they want you to commit. I'm not even kidding you. Clover has a 2-year minimum contract. You break the contract, you pay a lot of fucking money. A lot of money. 2-year minimum contract for a thing that I don't even know if it'll work, and there's no way to get a demo in Canada because they have nobody on site in the city that this restaurant is in Canada who is willing to go all the way out there to give a on-site demo. That is willing to work with me to set it up before hours so we can test it during hours and have a fallback back to the manual system anyways. Literally no one. And so it's crazy because that's not the only company. Multiple POSs are like that. All pieces of shit. The only two that weren't let you just download it. One was Square, the other one was I think Toast. I'm pretty sure. Now that I think about it, it's probably Toast actually. And it's crazy because it's like, why? Why is that the case? It doesn't make it doesn't make any sense to me. And you'll see there's a lot of working in like tech is that there's a lot of tech out there that doesn't really serve much like purpose, right? Where it serves such a niche purpose that is usually misconstrued for some other purpose, either because of ignorance of the person who's like looking at it, or because of willful misdirection by the people who sell it. In Clover's case, willful misdirection. In other tool cases, it's usually just misunderstanding. It's like the whole choosing like the right database for the right like job. Usually a document-based database is probably not what you want, but from the outside looking in, it seems like it can do everything. So why wouldn't you use it, right? Another fun thing that I found out while working with this was this weird, interesting problem that I was interesting to associate. So basically, when you have a lot of technology, right, somebody has to manage it. And as a mom and pop shop, you usually have many different people managing it because you just had someone, like you had your nephew do it, or you had your son or your daughter do it, and then they do it, and then they fuck off and they do their own thing, and then you move on to someone else to like help have you do it. But you've already forgotten about your old thing, right? One of these things for them was their email address for their restaurant, okay? Do you know a site called mail.com? Not hotmail.com, mail.com. Let me take you to the site. Because this is the weirdest fucking site I've ever seen in my entire life. I'm not kidding you, this is the strangest site ever. And I don't know why this site exists because I have no clue what purpose they even serve. Mail.com, a free mail domain host, okay? Free mail email account host, not really domain host, but whatever, fuck it. They also do like custom domains and stuff, a bunch of domains that they happen to like have. And this is one of the issues that you will tend to fall into is like trying to, map all these different pieces of technology back into one centralized system so that either you or them can manage it a lot better. In this case, their mail system, the email address that they use for their restaurant, for e-transfers and also just for general inquiries about business and stuff, is hosted by these guys, mail.com. And I didn't want to, I'm bringing, it's not necessarily because they're like bad. This business has been in, this company has been in business for 29 years. They used to be an American in Philadelphia. Now they're a European business, I think a German business. And they have a bunch of custom domains to open your thing on. But the interesting part when I saw this was that at first I thought it was a scam. Okay, because look at some of these domain names, so you can kind of figure out like why I was so worried about them. Let's see, doctor.com. Okay, what in the world is doctor.com? And why would I trust a doctor that has an email address what's that doctor from Simpsons? Doctor from Simpsons. Hi, Dr. Nick. Is that his name? Yeah, okay. So, hi, Dr. Nick. Imagine Dr. Nick at doctor.com. Okay? I don't think I would have trusted him in the Simpsons, regardless of how good he was, or if I hadn't seen any of his hijinks up until that point. And the crazier part is, because I'm technical, I can do a Whois lookup to see who actually owns this domain. So, for instance, I can do the Google's registry. Rest in peace. They had a pretty good registry until they sold it to Squarespace. Fuck you. You can go for, okay, what is doctor.com? Who owns this? Well, no registrar found, okay? And this is true for all of these little subdomains, because these subdomains don't actually exist. They just kind of like have it. And it's like, okay, this is weird, right? And it's scary because, like, again, as a person trying to figure out, like, have they been losing their money this entire time and they had no clue? Like, have they been scammed this entire time and what's like going on? It's very scary to see this, right? Asia.com or something, or like doctor.com. And you realize, oh fuck, like what's like going on? And their mail server basically responded like that. Thankfully, it wasn't too hard to find it because like this company has like an app that you have to download to view your like mail, and they didn't know how to import the mail anywhere else, so it was fine to like find. But you have to like gather all these different pieces, and you have to make sure that it's kind of like a professional standards thing. If you can help them in like some like ways based on your contract, and like if you're doing it anyways to like consolidate all that stuff, maybe do a bit of a security check to make sure that they're not being scammed, okay? But the reason why I'm showing you this is because while I was doing all of that and like going down this like rabbit trail of like who the fuck owns their email, I realized that the site's very weird, okay? This site has all of your usual offerings, right? Email, mail check, stuff like this. Premium domains, Firefox plus mail.com. I'm using Firefox. That's weird that two-factor authentication. Great, cool. You scroll to the bottom, you see a bunch of these. Again, it reminds me of a very old website that like sounds like a scam. And at the bottom, I was like, okay, well, because usually at the bottom, like a websites have like everything. Like the Whois has like Google privacy, who about Google, Whois, all this stuff, right? At the bottom, I'm like looking around. I'm trying to find information on like who like runs it. 1&1 Mail and Media Inc. They're a very big company in Germany, I think. But one thing caught my eye. Games. I was like, what the fuck is this? Games. Okay. This set alarm bells off in my head. I was like, oh my god, they've been losing money for years. Their e-transfers have never been going to their accounts. I need to sort of breach that barrier and like talk to them, and then figure out like your finances. Okay, turns out it was fine, that they were getting everything going. This site, this email host, for some reason, just they partner with games companies. This is weird. Okay, ads are not a non-normal thing. Ads are not an uncommon thing. Okay. You get ads in Hotmail a lot. You get ads in Outlook a lot. Usually the ads are about games too. You get the ads, like banner ads on the side about games, right? But this to have a dedicated section to like games, I was like, does this company make their own games? I actually thought that's what it was. So I thought I thought it'd be fun to play games made by this email company today. But it's not. I clicked on it last night and I was like, what is this shit? I can't show you the casino games because that's casino. It's Gamba. But look. They partner with other games to get an ad spot on their site. I am probably the only person in the last 29 years who has ever clicked on this stuff. I don't even think people know that this exists on their site. In the 29 years that this company has been alive, I am probably the one person in the last 5 to 10 years that has clicked on any of these links. And these are real games, okay? There's a League of Angels, which is a real game. Sea Fight, a real game. Dark Orbit, I remember seeing ads of this on other places. I tried it a bit. It's actually a game a long time ago. You have also a Game of Thrones game. Winter is coming. Game of Thrones, Winter is coming. The officially licensed game. What is this? You know what I mean? And you click on it. I'm willing to take viruses, but you realize it's like a real game. You realize it's an actual honest to god weird browser game. It's like, who makes this stuff? And then you keep on going on. You go into mini games. You got Merge Mania, Flexi Snake, the flexible snake variant at GameZop. What is GameZop? What? What's this? GameZop. GameZop are the best online games. Advert Game Technologies. Advert Games? Oh, this is shit. Oh, this is shit. Wait, can I just play this like here? Nah, shit. No. Okay, that was dangerous. That was very, very dangerous. But like, you see this stuff and you're like, why does a mail site need this? Again, it's not too uncommon because like banner ads are basically the same thing. This is like a banner ad that they pay for specifically for a specific spot on the site. It's just weird to see. And so like, you have to realize, okay, like this is why I've been gone for like a week. I've been helping this poor fucking family restaurant try to figure out their like stuff, try to figure out the best technological solution, and I'm trying to figure out why the emo host is hosting farm games. I'm like, what the fuck is going on with my life, right? And this is the shit that you just have to do sometimes, right? Because, you know, when they pay you to please help us consolidate all of our technology, like we have so much shit from everyone that we don't know, you're helping them like recover passwords and like shit for like everything, and you're helping them like manage everything into like a consolidated, like, you know, secure password manager for like them and stuff that's way easier to like use, right? And then you get down these like rabbit holes because you're like, fuck, like all this time have you been getting scammed? Because like, you know what I mean? Like, it's responsible disclosure to be like, hey, like, you're probably being scammed. Can I please look into this more for you? And you realize like, no, it's just an email host that just hosts Gamba games and strategy games and action games. Like, what the fuck is going on? Mail.com games. I don't understand. So yeah, for the past like week, this is my entire life, and I thought it'd be fun to show you all because again, nobody knows what I do. Literally no one. My family, my friends, nobody really understands what the fuck I do. like no one knows that. Like, I tell people that I program, but even when I explain it, I'm like, I don't know what the fuck I do. I do a bit of everything, right? And this stuff is very interesting to me because I really enjoy this kind of like last mile stuff, right? In logistics, there's this concept of like last mile logistics where of the last mile, because in the sense that like at your central warehouse, imagine it's like Amazon, your central warehouse, you can do anything. You can set up a system any way you want. You can get your employees to piss in bottles, and then you can get the robots to fuck them. Like you could do anything, right? Like it's you own that space, right? And then shipping things overseas is a very, you know, very standardized system. You have shipping lines. You have, you know, you have a whole bunch of things, right? You have like, you know, that like one Nile River thing that got blocked off by that one ship that like everyone, it was like the Evergreen or like something, right? And it's like a very standard system of like how things work. And you know, there's no variation from when it, you know, from your source where you have things going out all the way through the entire journey, usually until Evergreen happens, right? There's only variation at that last mile, and usually I like to work at that last mile bit of like stuff in terms of like who the clients that I like to work with. Smaller people that have more variable businesses that you have no real clue how this is going to work. Remember when I played Truck Simulator and I had to deliver like 27,000 kilograms of orange juice to some like factory? That's last mile. I have no clue how parking is going to be like, no clue how traffic is going to be like, no clue if a car is going to ram into me and spill all my orange juice all over the highway. I have no clue. And but that dynamism, being able to unload things and like make it very, you know, variable, it like keeps it fresh, keeps it fun, right? It's also where a lot of the complexity lies though, because it's very easy to define a very standard shipping line. It's also very easy to do things well in an environment that you control entirely. But when you're handing something off and when you're integrating between two different disparate pieces, you know, on a site that you control nothing about, that's when you get into all these complex bits that you need to like deal with. It's just a bit of like what I like to do, right? Obviously, I like to write software too, but I also like to like consult on things like this, which is very, very fun. Another thing that I've had to consult on a couple of times because we have some experience with this in general is like the idea of like, when do you take your small business into like a franchise model in like a restaurant sense? And almost always it was like a no. And like, you know, I had one business recently come up to me, which is also a part of this like week, because well, they were like, hey, like, should we franchise our like place? And like, do you even know what that means, right? Because franchising a place, you know, is a very complex consideration. In fact, let me open up the McDonald's franchisee site. This is a very good site for you to understand what it means to franchise, okay? McDonald's. Let's say you want to open your own McDonald's franchise. In this case, the restaurant is small. They don't have an existing system for franchising. They want to see what it takes to get into it. I almost always guide them to the McDonald's franchise site because immediately they'll understand how complicated it is. What you'll get are our proven system and recipe for success, world-class service and support, restaurant development support, and extensive training programs, opportunity to collaborate and contribute to the success of the system. And then, it also tells them, like, okay, how much you'll need. The McDonald's stands to make a lot from franchisees. You need at least $700,000 of non-borrowed funds. That means liquid assets, liquid cash, okay? You need to have liquid cash, $700,000 liquid cash. It cannot be a loan. You must have at least that much. At least. It cannot be a loan. That's insane. That's a lot of money that you need to open a franchise. But that's also the allure when a small restaurant that's getting bigger starts to realize, oh, we could open more locations, and I don't have to run it as the owner. You know what I mean? How much would it take to franchise, right? And then they see the dollar signs around, other businesses, and you're like, damn, that's a lot of money I could make. And then you realize, like, oh, like, that's why they're going for it, right? And then you tell them the first one is what you'll get, and then you dive deep into what you'll get. And I tell them very specifically, when it says why McDonald's, replace McDonald's with your restaurant name. Can you provide all of these? If not, you're fucked. What is your support system and what is your tools, right? And building a franchise is very different, right? Especially transferring into like a bespoke system that's like, very much variable on a day-to-day basis into a more centralized system to make it like a franchise is very difficult. And I always start with this basic question of like, if you had 2 times the customers now, would your current location be able to handle it? And they almost always say no. And I'm like, why? And we usually break down why. It's usually almost always the amount of prep needed, the amount of work needed, the amount of like space needed to like store all the like stuff. And I'm like, when you open a franchise, if you don't want them to just fuck around and do whatever the fuck they like wants, you're usually gonna have to ship them the exact same things that you have. And so I tell them, like, okay, if you don't want to ship all that stuff and like make it at your current restaurant, do you want to teach them the recipes to make it themselves? Almost every small restaurant will tell them no. They'll almost always go no, because again, as a small restaurant, all you have is your niche. All you have is your recipe. All you have is your thing that like, makes you stand out. And if not, then at least, you have your like training that you're not just gonna give off for like free or even for like a fairly large amount, because it's your livelihood. And at that level, you are very much aware and worried of like competitors, right? Because again, anyone can come in and swoop you up, and you're basically dead, and you have nothing. You basically have nothing to work with. And so I tell them, okay, so you don't want to do either of these, and you don't have a way to like do it. Lavita, hello, welcome. Long time no see. You caught me in the middle of my talk about what I've been doing. But hello, long time no see. Good to see you again. And so you realize that they don't really know what they're getting into. And then I tell them like, okay, well, if you could do it, how are you going to get it to this restaurant on time? And what would you actually make that can then be built up into your different dish outputs, right? You can do soup stocks, you can do different sauces and stuff, but is that enough? And they realize like, no, you still have to do a lot of training to actually train these people how to like cook. And then you ask them, and it's like, okay, well, who do you have in mind to run this like franchise? If it's some random fucko, how do you know that they're at least trained to run this stuff? And it's like, well, we don't know. And it's like, are you willing to like train them? And it's like, it'll take years. And it's like, exactly. Are you willing to have them work for you for years? And it's like, maybe not. What if it falls through, right? Do you have to pay back all that $300,000, $200,000, $100,000, however much like franchise offer that they're giving you, right? And it's like, that's kind of hard. You know what I mean? Holidays being with the family, then you got home and you've been snowclaying for days. Oh yeah, because it's like minus 38 there. Yeah, minus 38, yeah. It's like crazy there, right? Yeah, I like to keep track of like the weather in like different places where you viewers are like at. Because I enjoy looking at like what is the life of like a viewer, right? Because again, in Canada, we haven't gotten much snow, at least in southern Ontario. How and you've also done fishing and some hunting. Do you do ice fishing? Do you do like the hole in the floor to do like ice fishing? Because that does sound fun. How am I? I'm good. I've been gone for a while, but we're doing some. We're gonna play games today. I'm doing like a breakdown of like what I've been doing this like past week. In terms of like a business sense and like stuff. Yes, ice fishing is is best fishing. I agree. You know this? There's no other fishing method where you can just go outside and just start skating around. I don't actually know. I've never tried ice fishing, but I've always looked at it and it always seems like fun. Because you just get to like hang out there. You just get to like sit on like ice and you just get to like relax and see. Good God, hello, welcome. Man, you guys are in for a boring segment. I'm so sorry, all of you. How have you been? But yeah, it's so you do all this like breakdown for these businesses, right? And you realize that they don't know what they want to do. And again, just be honest. I'm like talking about like what I was doing this like past week and what I was doing. One of the things that I was doing was like trying to like work with these businesses who want to like these restaurants who want to like franchise and like stuff. And so trying to like explain to them what they need. You're also good. It's good to hear. Also good. Yes, I too am also good. Just sort of like going through what the week has like you so much know that you disappear in it. I wish we had that. I'll get into that in a bit because I just want to talk about like how crazy it is that this year there's no snow. But I just want to finish this like first. So you break down everything that's like going on, right? And then you realize that they have no clue what they want to do. And you realize that, even if you do it, you need to have like a second location to be able to manage all these prep things. And then you need to have like time to like do it, right? Are we having a business class today? Kind of. It's more like a breakdown of like what I like do because like it's like I don't think anyone knows what I do, and I really like these problems, and I think they're interesting problems, but they're problems that it's so hard to find any information on about what these problems are. But I think it'd be just nice to make like some kind of information about it, some kind of video about it. I don't know. My little puppy would disappear entirely. Yeah, I mean she disappears now on our like bed with the like blankets. We actually I'll get into what happened with that. Just remind me here. What happened to my puppy? That and also snow. There we go. I wrote this down for later. Yeah, so basically that's this is a business class. Trying to convince a restaurant that they have no clue what they're doing when they say they want a franchise, right? That's mom and pop restaurants. And so you start asking these like questions more and more and more, and you realize like they have no clue what they want to do. Right? They have no clue what it is that they want to do and how much effort is going to go into it. When you break it down, they realize like, oh, like they absolutely cannot handle that kind of workload. Because now you're not just working at one restaurant, you're working at two restaurants simultaneously, and you need to be ready to handle issues at like both. Even just the idea of like delivering to like a different restaurant is going to be impossible, right? Again, the last mile in logistics is almost always the most complicated because it's very variable. Imagine transporting things from two last mile locations, okay? Transporting between two variable last mile locations is a nightmare. It is one of the hardest levels of transporting things to the point where there are entire courier companies set up that have manual couriers that just go on a bike because it's easier than figuring out anything else. This is an absolute nightmare to handle. And it's crazy because like it sucks too because like they see the like dollar signs, right? McDonald's stands to make $700,000 because the franchisee needs to have $700,000 to start a franchise, and not just like dollars loan, but literally like liquid cash. They have to have that much to like do it. And obviously, as a McDonald's, you stand to make millions per like year, right? Like you're not gonna go bankrupt opening a McDonald's franchise ever. But for a small restaurant, there's a lot at stake. Your name of that restaurant is now attached to that second location. The people who run it aren't you, and so they don't really have a vested interest. They have a vested interest to make money using your stuff, but not a vested interest to make sure that it's done well. Just a vested interest to make money. And if they're unscrupulous, you now need to think about how you deal with the fraud aspect of it, right? What if they cut corners to make a larger buck, and you don't know, and all of a sudden people start saying that your restaurant, because of this restaurant, is like better or like worse, right? Like there's so many different considerations that a franchise is usually the worst thing that you want to go for as a small business trying to scale up. Usually, I almost always tell people, if you can open up a second location with someone that you trust, that's significantly better than doing a franchise model, because at least then you have more control and you have more consistency across locations that then doesn't dilute your identity or your brand, as well isn't just a headache to do, because that person that you trust is also probably a person that you wouldn't mind giving the recipes to because you trust them. It's very different from from a franchise model versus just opening a second location, right? And I always tell them that. I always tell people. And so when this like again, small family mom and pop shop, again, old owners who are just thinking about how we can grow it now that they're getting older, I tell them if you can't open a second location with someone you like trust, it's not worth it because the headaches is going to make you bankrupt. Again, food is a very low margin business, very low margin business, unless you're either a fast food restaurant that deals in high volume, or you're a fine dining restaurant that deals in high margins. If you're one of those average diners, you're making nothing. So I always tell them, unless you want to go bankrupt and spend all of your retirement years working, don't do it. Take your cash out now, sell the restaurant if you have to. Don't bother trying to make your life more complicated unless you have a guaranteed system and somebody to at least help you at that second location. And again, you see some bits of this in various media out there, right? I think Jiro Dreams of Sushi, I know this is weird to say, but Jiro Dreams of Sushi being like an art house film, it also had one of the best representations of the franchise model versus the second location model ever. Because the franchise model was basically the guy who went off to open his own place using the same teachings, and it was relatively good. But then he wasn't really related to it, and obviously it would have been a headache to try to scale their operations up. And you also see the franchise model in how the second son opened the business, but also as a second location as well. And you see the amount of work that they had to go through to actually run that business as well, and all the steps that they had to take, and all the things that just can't scale. Sourcing things doesn't really scale very well, right? Especially if you're aiming for quality and a good value for your customer base, right? And so surprisingly, that weird art house film about a dude who just dreams about sushi and who really loves sushi ended up being one of the best references that I've ever had to tell people to be hey, you probably want a second location, and even then it's a lot of work, but it's way better than a franchise, because how are you going to scale up any of these? And obviously this depends on your business. If your business has very scalable elements, you already prepare a bunch of hamburger patties and you make a bunch of hamburgers and you just push them anywhere and you freeze them the night before anyways, and then you cook them on the grill anyways, you're basically 99% of the way to a McDonald's style business anyways. And so a franchise works for you. But for a bespoke table service restaurant that has their own recipe menu where you have to live cook everything, it wouldn't work for a Thai food restaurant without significant effort, right? It's gonna be very hard. Yeah. You cannot have a centralized factory outputting pad per grau for every single location that you have across the entire city. It's very difficult to keep the quality consistent. You're gonna still need to train people, and you need to source for each one appropriately to get that right flavor. It's very difficult. Again, how the fuck are you gonna get? Actually, maybe the only thing that you could do very well and do in a franchise model for a Thai restaurant is getting holy basil, because that is the rarest ingredient in the West I've ever seen in my entire life. It's so rare, and I can't find it. I still can't find it. I have to grow my own. I grow holy basil like I'm growing weed at a dispensary. Jesus. But yeah, this is just some of the things that I've been working on this past week. Again, it's fun for me, and there's never any information about how to handle these, and I've only talked about in general terms, but I find it so fascinating because there's so many different factors that you don't even think about, right? The food business is such a complex beast, and then trying to integrate technology into it is a complex beast, and trying to take your food business to the next level is a complex decision as well that has so many different pitfalls that you have to be aware of that somebody needs to tell you, because you won't even think about it until it happens, right? I thankfully have had some experience in having to make that transition and failing from it as well, right? And so it's easy for me to sort of figure out and tell people this is what happened when the people that I would try to and failed, and so I know what to expect. But for most people getting into it, it's all this stuff about integrating technology into what is called a brownfield space. I don't know what they call a brownfield. It sounds like a field of shit, but it's the difference of greenfield, which is a new business. It's very difficult to even think about, but it is fun to do. I do recommend that style of work. If you have the skills to branch out a little, it's very dynamic. Every day is something new, and you get to learn a lot more about different industries as you get into them. But boy, oh boy, I wish there was more resources, and I wish less people on forums would go oh, are you ready to be in a business? It's well, I don't know. It seems like it'd be fun. Just do it for fun, right? Again, I'm a nerd who plays Factorio, right? So I love these logistical things, and I love playing. And I actually like cooking a lot. I don't have the personal stamina to last in a restaurant, because like physically, I don't really do very well physically. So but if I could, I probably would. Yeah, that's all for my business talk. Again, I just thought it'd be a fun segment again to update all of you with like more concrete examples of what I've been doing, and also because like I find this stuff so fascinating and like fun that I like to do it, and I thought maybe it'd be fun for you to like hear it too. Again, it's a very weird niche topic, but I tend to like working in weird niche topics, and they tend to be very interesting because of how niche they are. That they have their own unique set of challenges and constraints. That's fun to talk about. And again, these are very simplified scenarios. There's obviously a lot more complex concerns as you get into different types of businesses and like restaurants and like needs and stuff. I hadn't even touched on like what like a franchise going into like like what a small restaurant becoming a franchise that's like going into like fast food territory could like be like, or even like what fine dining is like which I've had limited experience with fine dining, right? Very, very limited. But even then, it's a whole different ball game. And the technology in this case is pure integration. There's no need for any custom builds. It gets crazier when you need to build something fully custom, okay? When you need to build stuff that's fully custom, then you get into like crazy territories of like how much you need to know, but also how much responsibility falls on your shoulders. That it's like it's strange. It's strange and fascinating how intoxicating that level of control is, but also how scary it can be if it can fail. But also how much of a challenge it is, and how invigorating and also how exciting that challenge can be to like take. Hopefully you enjoyed that business class, because again, I'll never talk about this ever again probably. It's probably just a one-time thing. So yeah, the incident with my puppy. Again, these are the last two things that I'll talk about before we start the games. Again, we're going to be finishing games this entire week. My puppy gets lost, okay? Very often. Not outside, but in the house, okay? My puppy would get stuck and lost inside the snow. I wouldn't be able to find her. In fact, my puppy was on the bed and I had no clue. And I just laid my like arm down, and I thought it was I thought it was like a pillow, and I was half asleep, right? And my wife, my dear wife, she was like, she started laughing, and I was like, what's like going on? And she's like, look, and like apparently, like I was so asleep that I just didn't look, and so like she had to lift my like arm, but Missy was stuck under my like arm, and she wasn't yelping or anything, like she wasn't in like pain, but she was trying very hard to like drag herself out. She was like, let me out, let me out. And you see the small puppy, this one right here, this small little puppy, like clawing for dear life, trying to get out from under my like arm. Cause she's so small, like I don't even see her. She gets lost under the like blanket, and I'm like, oh, it's so cute. But at the same time, it's like, yeah, I don't like. I'd be terrified bringing her outside, right? I'm still am terrified, just cause like we have sometimes we have big like birds. I don't know, like a big, even a pigeon could probably steal her, right? She's very, very small, but she's so goddamn cute. And so it's like, but also like she doesn't make any noise. She's the quietest puppy that I've ever known. She barely barks. She literally barely barks. I know I say that even though you heard her bark on stream on the stream a lot. When it was like very active like dog cam days. But like honestly, aside from those like days, aside from when, like I'm like ignoring her, she basically never barks. If you're like even like just there with her and you're not ignoring her, she will never bark. She's completely silent. She is like a tiny little, she's like a shadow just walking around, and you don't even notice because she's so small. It just looks like something passed by your eyes and you don't even register it. And then she doesn't make any noise, and all of a sudden she's like halfway out the like store and like, no, right? Ah, it's so hard. Again, I love her a lot, but it's taking her outside does scare me. It gives me a lot of anxiety. I need to like maybe we have a bell for her, but it's not loud enough. I have thought about attaching like a sound clip to her, right? Like a portable sound clip, so every time she takes like a step, it'll say like yeet or like yippee or something, right? And also the snow. So again, Canada, I don't know what's been going on. Well, I do know why. There's been barely any snow. It's been very, very quiet actually. All throughout the entire winter actually. We've only had like 3 days of snow, and I'm very sad. It doesn't feel like winter yet. It still doesn't feel like winter even this late into the new year. Like very late past December, which is usually, the like time of like holiday cheer, right? It's very sad to see. Because again, snow is a very nice, soothing mood for me, at least during daytime. Nighttime is a bit scary because you hear crunching and silence. But daytime, Daytime snow is fantastic. I like the idea of just being lost in like a snow sort of like realm, snow place, and just sort of like being there and having that silence and like having that like feeling of like nice cold flakes falling on you. I like when white stuff falls over my face. Yeah, that's why I like snow. Anyways, that's all for talking, okay? We're not talking the entire day. Well, wait, it's winter? Yeah, exactly, chat member. Exactly. Wait, it's winter? Exactly. Yeah, I mean, I'm in my t-shirt, my shorts, and I'm like, I don't know if it's winter yet. It feels kind of hot, but, you know, it's whatever. For some of us, it's winter. Maybe one day I'll visit North Sweden, you know, see how it's like up there. See that minus 30, you know, as you all say. Maybe if I get to know some more Swedish streamers. I just found one recently, actually. Alfhilda something Olden Thor or something. She's like a Swedish VTuber, and it's fascinating. Oh, I learned a Swedish term. Okay, fuck, what's it called? I'm gonna butcher the pronunciation, and also this is a not safe for work word. So if you're on speaker, you may want to look away now. Giratrunka. It means crying while jerking off. It's a Swedish word for crying and jerking off. And I don't know why I learned this. Okay, I'm sorry. I watched a video about like Swedish language because I just get like in these rabbit holes, and I was trying to like learn these like words here. Giratrunka. I don't know if I'm saying it right. This word here. Is that that word there? I don't even know if this font can render the little accent correctly, like on the A. But yeah, this like word, the word to masturbate while like cry. Obviously, it's like a combination word, right? It's like the two different words smashed together. Like it's like, you know, many languages have that concept, but at the same time, it's just funny that like that is something that could be used, right? So yeah, I'm sorry that the first thing I learned from the Swedish language was like a word like this. I should have learned like hello. Although I did learn how to say or like how like usually people do like yes and like stuff. It was like or something like that. It was like a grunt, which is very similar actually in like my in my native tongue. How we say yes is It's just and so like you just hear people like grunting constantly. It's like It's like, oh, okay, cool. And it's like, you know, why did they just grunt? Were they like upset? It's like, no, that's how you say yes in my dialect. It's like, So yeah, sorry. I'm gonna learn better. I'm gonna learn better Swedish soon. I'll learn better languages soon. Okay, like I just don't know why. I get into these like rabbit holes of like looking things up. In North Sweden, it's you for yes. How do you pronounce that? You. Northern Sweden word for yes. Jo. Wait. There's a video. We can listen to it. Wait. Or maybe I shouldn't listen to it. Okay, how about I just listen to it? That's the sound, right? Right, that's the sound. That's the sound that I learned. Yeah. That's it. Yeah. That's the one that I heard in the video too. That I watched. I think two or three nights ago. See, like stuff like that is like so fascinating to me, because like it's not an uncommon thing to like have, right? Because again, in my language, it's like a very similar concept too. I can't do it very very well, but it's like very very similar concept too. But it's just like a noise done by the air, but I can't do it on this mic because it's like too like quiet. But it's like stuff like that. It's like, yeah, sick. So yeah, every time. So if you ask me something, I'll just respond, yeah. And then you know, you can ask me anything, and I won't be able to like read it, and it's fine. But I'll still respond. You know, so Giratunka. I don't know if I'm pronouncing that right. I'm probably butchering the like word. I still can't do trills, so I'm gonna have to learn slowly. But yeah, that's what I've been up to this like past week. Again, sorry for butchering everyone's languages. I'm trying my best to learn more. It's just I get into deep rabbit holes on YouTube, and I keep on learning things. And I learn things that I wonder if I shouldn't learn at all. Maybe I need to learn like more safe work things. But it's like, I don't know, it's just fun. It's just fun to learn anything, you know? Plus, I like learning. And I like sort of like seeing like how everyone is and sort of like seeing like, you know, how everything's like over there for all of you as well. It's fascinating to sort of see, you know what I mean? It's again, I find the internet so fun because you get to share so many things, right? Also, before we start, one final update, actually. There will be no Discord server again. I know I said last time there might be, but I looked into it more and I was like, there's just too much problems. Like I cannot manage it. I saw so many horror stories on like Twitter of like people being on like a Discord server and like reaching out to other people and like asking some crazy stuff or like being terrible to other people, like stalking people and stuff. And I'm like, I cannot manage that. Like I just can't. Chat, I can barely make it on time to the streams. I don't think I can manage a Discord server very, very well, right? So it's going to be impossible for me to do. Sorry. But you're going to have to learn how to live with Imager. Or like Dropbox. I'm so sorry. If you want to share something. Or email me. Email me. Yeah. You have an image? I don't know. You have a funny meme? Email me. You have something that you want to say? Email me. You have a video? I don't know. Email me if it fits. I don't know. How much? What's the max size of... I think my max size for my email is 15 megabytes. So make sure to render your video in 120p. And while you're rendering that, I'm gonna get the next game ready. I'm gonna share with you a song that's been on my mind that I re-listened to recently that I think is very fantastic. And as well, I need to use the washroom. So while I'm gone, I'll be ready. And when we're back, we'll be back with with actually finishing a game, Astra Libra. Nah, it's fine. You're definitely not crying. Right now. I'm sorry, guys. I'm sorry. Now I have thought about like the Discord a lot in terms of like I do want to do more community fun events. Like say there's like a co-op game or like something. It'd be fun to just drag everyone in and just have like a pure chaos like hour or like something. But I think we'll just do it through like chat only and through like pinned messages just to make it easier. Because I think through like Discord it's gonna be a bit too. Again, just I don't know how I would be able to moderate it. Again, sorry. It's just I wish I could, but it's like very, very hard. Don't even try to learn deep Norbotniska dialect or Swedish. Is it hard? I mean, there's a lot of dialects that like range in like very easy to very hard, right? So it's like, you know. But yeah, you know, just for the sake of like just so everyone knows, just so everyone can like cry about it now, there will be no Discord. I'm sorry. Again, I'm never on time for like streams. Like how am I going to chat? If I like, okay, imagine I make a Discord, somebody comes in and somebody stalks all of you, right? It's like, what am I gonna do? I can't help you, all of you. At least here, it's like at least here, it's like you have like a barrier that like, keeps you safe, right? There, on a Discord server, I'm the only person keeping you safe, and I can barely go on stream on like time. Do you really want that? I don't think so. It's really hard, and no one Swedish person won't understand it. Yep, that makes sense. It reminds me of a dialect in my language too. In Vietnamese, there's this one particular dialect that is only ever spoken in this one like particular region or like village basically, and it is so different. They have a couple of words that you kind of recognize as like similar to yours, but everything else is so different that it's basically like a whole new language with the same roots. But even then, it's like there's no way to like know. And just because of that, I'm going to learn it. Next time when you see me, I'm going to have a full fluency in a deep Norbotniska dialect. I'm gonna be so fluent that I can pronounce that one word. Yeah. Okay. BRB, and I'll leave you with some with a song that I've been listening to again recently. Let me just set things up.